Never in my wildest dreams would I ever thought that I could have bought 4 properties in a couple of years. It's absolutely insane. And one of the questions that I've been getting asked all the time recently is, how did you do it? How do you buy so many properties in such a short period of time? So let's do a bit of a vid on it. Let's talk about exactly how you can buy multiple investment properties.
One of the most epic things about speaking to so many investors every year and having, gone through just so much battering up and getting beaten up from trying to figure this out in the last 10 years myself is just a real trust in the process. Like, I never would have known that I could have started from earning $40,000 a year and being able to save such a small amount of money to accumulating a portfolio that one day in the future will make me financially free. And so it really does start with that trust that it's all going to work out. And secondly, create a plan. Now, planning for us is always broken into two simple things. The first being your long-term.
Yep.
Now, for us, that's a vision. I know that feels lofty, but it really is a vision of who you want to be. Like, what choices do you want in your future? What type of lifestyle do you want to be living? And most importantly, what is the specific goal for financial freedom? Now, for me, one day I'd like 200 grand a year of passive income from my properties so that I can not just cover my basic living needs, but also travel and have the lifestyle that I want at that time down the line as well. For other people we work with, that might be 500 grand or it might be 50K. And that's really the first step. Like, I think a good place to start if you don't know where to start is, what are you earning now? Are you happy with the lifestyle you've got? Let's just replace that amount of money as a starting point.
It's seriously as simple as that. Just making sure that you're creating that longer term plan. And, if you're not sure, start there, because I can guarantee it's going to change. Like my plan when I first created it 3 years ago, it wasn't to buy that amount of properties in that period of time. Things change and you've got to be willing to adapt to that change. But it's a really simple, easy way to start. Some people overset expectations that may be unrealistic. Some people underset expectations that might be, too easy for that particular person to attain. But, just simple as that, replacing your current income within, maybe 15 years.
I remember when you and I were first sitting down and you were just finishing off uni and you were like, I think I can do a couple of properties before I'm 30. And I'm like, I think you can as well. But I'll let you set your own goals. Because it's like when you're starting, you don't know what you're capable of. You're starting from a place where you've got information overload. You don't have a plan. You don't have a team. Most likely there's not a huge amount of people in your life that you've seen become successful the way that you want to be. Normally it's a pretty lonely journey, or maybe you don't have a partner that's on board, or maybe you don't have a partner at all, and because of that you feel like scared and alone like I did. And it's like, you've just got to recognize that we all feel that fear, but the people that get from where they are to where they want to be slowly confront that fear, consistently live just above that comfort zone, and just work it out one step at a time. Like, when you think about that first property, how intimidating soliciting was, building a pest was.
Even just signing the contract.
Signing a contract.
What are all these words? Do I need to know what all of this means? And then it's just like, look, it's a standard contract.
Now it's just like, you understand the contract, you understand how to read a building a pest.
You know when you've got to do what.
Who to talk to, what the mortgage broking documents mean and what they're asking you. And so just trust that you will figure it out, but not all straight away and not all at the same time.
Yeah, so once you've got that bigger plan, it's basically just reverse engineering it, scaling it right back, because you'll become anxious if you live too much in the future. So literally just bringing it back to what's next. What do I need to do over the next 12 months? And it is so simple once you get to this point in time. You just got to go talk to a mortgage broker or a bank manager. Have a chat with them about your current financial position and figure out exactly what it is you can do, because you can only work with what the banks will lend you. You might be in a position where you've been saving away for a long time, you've got a great income, and you can service a high amount, but you might just be at the beginning of your journey where you are only earning 60 grand a year and you've only got, 40, 50 grand in the bank account. So you really need to have that discussion with a professional that can actually provide you with advice and feedback as to exactly what you can borrow because from there, we can then really develop the property strategy and the property investment goals.
Completely. And like, it is brutal, but so simple. Like, your short-term plan is either one of two things. It's keep planning and saving because you can't do anything because the bank or the broker told you can't.
Been there.
I've spent most of my investing life
most of the investment journey's that.
No, Ben. Yes, all right.
Ben, it's only been 2 weeks.
It's been 3 days, man. I said, call me back in a year. Or it's, hey, I can do something. The broker said I can borrow 300 grand or $3 million and sweet, like I'm in a position to go. And then that's a good time to like start really planning and going, well, hey, I can only borrow enough to borrow one property. Sweet, makes it super easy. Or hey, we've got clients that can borrow $10 million right now. Planning for them with their financial advisors and accountants is a little bit more complex because there's a lot of different ways you can spend that money. So it's the best use of those funds to get you from A to B in the shortest time. But when we talk about this property strategy, it is super simple for us. Now, this may or may not be relevant for you in any way, but our strategy is simple. We buy houses on big blocks in great suburbs with great infrastructure in the best cities in Australia.
At the right time.
At the right time. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. You don't have to lose sleep on this for the next 2 years looking at every single thing in the world like I did. You can literally just look at what's worked previously in history based on that. We've done insane podcasts on this. If you go to the Pumped On Property Show, you can look at 5 or 6 in a row where one we talk about state, one we talk about city, one we talk about suburb, one we talk about street, one we talk about the house. And in 5 hours, you'll learn more about investing than 99.9% of people alive know.
The beautiful thing about, right now to the day and age that we live in is that, even though it can be a lonely journey, you're not alone because there is the podcast, the YouTube channels, the advisors to lean on to help you make the right decisions and listen to them, take it with a grain of salt, and then, figure out how that fits in with what you're trying to do as well.
Now, if I was just getting started right now, which I am again because I'm looking to buy this year.
Back, baby.
I'm back. I said I wouldn't be back, but I'm back.
I ain't fucking leaving.
I ain't leaving. But, I ain't leaving. I love this stuff. So, like, for me, it's a passion, and I've been saving my ass off for the last year and a half, and I'm ready to roll again. And luckily, it's a time in the cycle where I think I can do okay in the next 5 years. So I've gone Australia. Then I've gone Sydney and Melbourne and Hobart look hot. Canberra looks hot, plus you don't actually own the land, the government does, and you lease it for 100 years. So then it's like Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane. Brisbane's got 25% according to the ABS of Australia's population, future job growth and income growth. It's also like an hour away from Sydney, 2 hours away from Melbourne. Maybe there'll be fast rail one day between the few of them as well. Perth's got 8%. Adelaide is just like a big regional town to me. So I stroked off Adelaide. I went Perth versus Brizzy, and I looked at the economies of both, and I went, well, Brisbane is highly diversified, not to the level that Sydney and Melbourne are, but significantly more than Perth. Although Perth is coming off a 14-year low, where Brisbane's only coming off a 12-year low. So both look good. When I looked further, I went, well, I know Brisbane, it's closer to home. I feel much more comfortable with the city because we bought $250 million worth of property there in the last 5 years for clients.
It's nice to have the first and third largest regional market within an hour as well. Like the
Sunny
lifestyle,
Coast and Goldie.
The lifestyle that Southeast Queensland presents is amazing as well. Olympics coming in 2032,
Hopefully.
Potentially. It's not just, this is where I feel comfortable. It's based on the data that we've said. And it's not like we're saying, I would never invest in Perth. It's just based on the information that we have right now, we like Brisbane more.
And I grew up in Sydney. I have a massive bias towards Sydney. I love Melbourne and I want to own there. But I went, well, they've grown by 60 to 80% in the last 10 years, where Brisbane and Perth are actually cheaper to buy in a lot of suburbs than they were 12 to 14 years ago. So I went that way. Then in Brisbane, I went, well, Brisbane isn't just this massive place. It's actually 700 unique suburbs in Southeast Queensland. And so we did what we do, which is looked at each of the suburbs across a whole bunch of indicators. And I went, well, I like these parts of the city because there's a high concentration of wealth, jobs, schools, infrastructure.
Scarcity.
scarcity, like on the beach and close to the CBD. And then what I did is I went, well, this particular pocket of the city, the southeastern beaches, I think is significantly undervalued right now compared to what it will be in 20 years. And then I went and looked at 6 suburbs, and then I went within those suburbs, I like these 3. And then when I went and drove down there, I actually only like 2 of them now. So for me, I've got these 2 suburbs, and I know this is granular, but that is sort of where we get to with your property strategy, because you want to be that specific so that you're not doing what I did back in the old days and looking at
everything. It's getting real specific, real strategic, and narrowing it down so that you can remain sane throughout the process, and it's just going to make it so much easier. Like, if you just go out there and start looking at realestate.com based on properties that are selling at your budget, there's going to be potentially tens of thousands of properties on realestate.com. So refining it down, building your property strategy, developing your property investment goals, identifying a market, a handful of suburbs maximum within that market, and then know exactly what it is that you want to buy, whether it be a house or a unit or a townhouse. For us, always houses on big piece of land. Yeah. So it's simple. You just know exactly what you're doing. You're not wasting any time then. You just have your automatic alert set up. You maybe contact a few of the local agents and just, get into the next step, which is executing that strategy and inspecting properties and negotiating with agents and finding the right opportunity for you.
Being super patient is one of the lessons that I wish I could have said to my 24-year-old self. Like, you're going to find the right one, just chill the hell out, man. You don't have
I wish
to look
I said
at
it to my 28-year-old self with the last one. I'm like,
I rushed
in, and then now the market's sort of tapering off. I'm like, far out, I could have found that for 10k less.
No, you couldn't have. Like, that property was an absolute gold mine, that one. Like, that was an absolute cracking buy. We were looking for 9 months for that one, really, every single week.
It was a ripper.
Yeah, like when I say that the market's slowing down, not in good suburbs, when I say it's slowing down, it just means that I can buy a property and take 3 days versus 1.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not price-wise, it's just consistent. But yeah, like, I think for me, execution is everything.
Yeah.
And just being patient around that execution. Now, once you've done that, we highly recommend, like, the way to build a multiple property portfolio or go from 1 or 2 houses to 5 or 10 is one good property at a time. There's no point owning 10 duds. Like, at one point I owned 9 properties and I literally thought 7 of them were shit. Like, I still sort of do. Like, I'm like they were small piece of land. They're in new estates. They're in the wrong market at the wrong time. They were in shitty suburbs with really bad demographics. They were just properties that I bought because I wanted to buy properties. And so when you have a good plan like Simon talked about, you've got a good strategy that aligns with it. You've got a good team of people that you can sanity check. Like, am I doing the right thing? I'm always asking you that question.
Yeah.
And like, you saved me twice last year. I terminated 2 properties because Simon's like, I don't think they're the right ones after I bought it. It's like having people that you can trust like that to see through your own bias and emotion of just wanting to buy. Like, Simon was legitimately looking on our board for 5 months. And it was only after a client terminated at the 11th hour that he was able to grab a property that worked. And it's like, that waiting was the perfect property that you could have bought. Like, I haven't seen anything that good in the last 12 months down there. And it's because you patiently waited.
Yeah, patience is such a virtue. Like, it's not a lie when people say that. It's going to enable you to just find the right property. And there is so much more value. And we've done a video on this, on buying the right property than just buying a property because you can. So, like, spending more time on the strategy, on the planning, on the execution is going to pay its dividends tenfold over if you are patient and you get the right one. Because if you make one little sacrifice and that impacts even just 0.5% over the lifetime that you hold that property, compounded is going to be way more than what you pay if you wait.
Exactly. So, once you execute and buy that right property, obviously to become a successful property owner that owns multiple investments that are all high quality, you want a good team. And that team looks like, for me, a solicitor, a barrister, a mortgage broker, town planner, a certifier, a builder, a building and pest inspector, an accountant, a tax depreciation specialist,
maybe a financial advisor,
pool certifier, financial advisor.
The list goes on.
And, I didn't have all of those people at the start. Like, I literally had a referral to a mortgage broker and then I Googled a solicitor.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to have it all figured out, but to become successful long term, you're only as good as the weakest person in that team.
Yeah, and you need, like, the big ones there that you need as your best advisors is definitely a great accountant, a great mortgage broker, and a great property manager.
Plus solicitor, because that solicitor will massively have your back if something happens and you need to get yourself out of a contract.
100%. And then, once you've executed it, it's kind of just set and forgetting and then leaving it with your property manager and saying, hey, now it's your property. Look after it as if it were your own and keep these tenants happy. Let me know if there's anything that I need to do. You just don't have to worry about it. Then you go and approach your other advisors. You approach your accountant and go, okay, now that I've got this one property, how do I set this up in the best possible way so I'm maximizing my tax benefits? Get that organised. Then it's getting back to your property, your mortgage broker and going, okay, this is how much it ended up costing for that property. This is the rental return. This is how much additional savings that I've got. This is what my income is now. Let's reevaluate where I'm at and then point me in the right direction as to what my next steps is, which is simple. It's, either building up another deposit and getting back into savings. Maybe it's looking at different ways you can increase your income to increase that savings, or maybe it's just waiting for a bit of an equity increase in the property.
Or it's, hey, I'm ready to go again, let's go. Like, we've got some clients, right, that bought one property 5 years ago and they've been saving for the last 5 years to buy their second. I've got other clients that bought one property 5 years ago and they could have bought 5 and they're just waiting because that's their strategy and that's who they are.
Risk averse.
We've got other clients that are literally bought 5 or 6 properties in a 12-month period because they could borrow $3 million and they wanted to get it done. And now they're done. They've set and forget all of those properties and they've gone back to their normal jobs, businesses and lives, knowing that they've set their entire future up. So regardless of where you sit, the process of achieving a multiple property portfolio and achieving financial freedom and choices through that is exactly the same. And it is the right team, the right plan, the right property in the right market at the right time, and then confidently at that time executing. You're never going to get it right. Like, there's not a single property that I have in my portfolio that I think I absolutely nailed. And that's the truth. Like, on my last build that I did, Simon saw the build and then he went back to the builder and he cut about 35 square meters out of the plan, which is going to save him 50 grand when he builds the same thing. And it's a better plan. And I went, shit.
But that happens,
these things happen.
Like,
that was property 13 for me and I'm still figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I had some tax things that I made a mistake with for my portfolio as well. And it's just, shit's going to happen, right? Like that, it's a bumpy journey and sometimes you don't have every single piece of the puzzle. And that's what I tell a lot of people, especially your accountants and your engineers and your very analytical people. They just want every single piece of the puzzle over the next 15 years put together before they take step one. And sometimes you just got to jump in the deep end and give it a crack. And provided that you've done the right research, you've created the right plan, and you've got the right advice from the right people, you should be able to confidently move forward.
So for those of you that like the idea of continuing to build one great property at a time into your portfolio, we'd love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session with either myself, Simon, or one of the team members. All you have to do is jump over to www.pumpedonproperty.com, click the free strategy session in. Those sessions are highly limited, and as are the number of people that we take on as a business each month. But if you decide to book in one of those sessions, what you can expect is talking to us about where you are, where you'd like to be in the future, and then we can give you some really good information on the market that we've spent hundreds of hours collecting this year. And you can take that and go and smash it on your own, or maybe you can talk to us about becoming one of those small number of people that we help each month. But we just really want the best for you. And if that's not of interest to you, that's completely cool. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Insta, listen to the podcast, keep collecting ideas from us, plus all of the other great people out there, and then go and smash it on your own, but smash it thoughtfully and don't end up with 9 properties like I do, have to sell 7 of them and then rebuild again at 32 just because you're not thoughtful at this stage when you have the choice to be now.
Yeah, I think taking the pressure off, slowing down to speed up is really important, and make sure that you have the right plan, make sure that you are focusing on the right assets, because without that 100% confidence and clarity, you're always going to be feeling a little bit anxious or a little bit nervous to get into it, which is always going to hold you back and maybe make emotional bad decisions.
Without a doubt, man. Like, we're not perfect. We're never
Nobody
going to
is.
have all the right information. We don't have unlimited budgets. We've got kids. We've got choices. We've got
Debt.
different stages of life. We've got debts. It's like we're just trying to figure it out. But there are patterns to the madness. And once you can start to see the patterns, the complexity or the chaos becomes much simpler, you know, filled with that type of journey. But like, we want the best for you, and you know, we're super grateful to be able to share this with you. Stay safe this year and moving forward into the future as well.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty.